The art of temperance. Perhaps it can be found in the cleansing waters of my morning shower, or in the caffeinated corpses of dried and ground coffee beans. Maybe it's in the way I become an unintentional alchemist, combining ordinary base elements, transmuting water into liquid gold, finding the secrets for eternal life with the dawn of each new day. The excitable displays of joy-made fluid know the answer, as do the still primordial pools of life. The smallest creatures dance to the tune of it, and the parched earth greedily laps it up. So what is the art of temperance?
Hi everyone, my name is James Feeney. Welcome to or back to my channel. I'll start by saying that I do not have the answer to what the art of temperance is, nor do I think I have the jurisdiction or scope to be able to tell you what it is for you. So based on that intro, you might be able to ascertain that we're going to be talking about the art of temperance. Now, I'm just going to be offering my insights, my thoughts and findings on this, I would say, abstract and figurative concept. So I'll start by getting into what it is that I'm speaking on when I talk about the art of temperance. I'm really getting at the heart of what those cards in their individual identity mean. So we have temperance in the Rider-Waite-Smith and art in the Thoth, both of which are cards that really speak to the idea of true balance. And when I say true balance, I mean not necessarily the idea of balance that equates to equal parts, but more so balance that equates to harmony or I would say feelings of bliss and contentment and connection with a sort of higher self and state of being. So, for example, when we think of balance in terms of equal parts, we might think of there needing to be a 50-50% or an even split, and that's not actually very helpful, actually, I think, in terms of thinking of harmony and true balance. I think that the idea of equal splits and parts sometimes is ineffective in attaining sense or reaching a point of harmony, because it's not always what is required to have something work at its best abilities or to feel its best. For example, we don't always want to have, I would say, 50% of one thing and 50% of another. Our ideal balance might be somewhere where we need 70% of one thing to function at good and maximum capacity and 30% of the other. So we're getting at the idea of true balance, more so as, I would say, an art form, a lifestyle, something to be engaged in. So I'll start by looking at the cards and using them to, I would say, explain the concept a little bit further. So first we have the art, which is the Thoth depiction of the Temperance card, or key 14, and then we have Temperance in the Rider-Waite-Smith. Now, to me, art as a word, as a title, for this card feels a lot more like a verb. So art is something that you conduct, that you do. It's something that you can look at, but the idea and the action that we see going on in this card, it's a very active, colorful, vibrant, movement-oriented card, in my opinion. So the idea of temperance here is more of an action. It's something to be done, that is, I would say, depicted, and it feels more of, I would say, something that you take upon yourself and conduct. So that's what we see with this. So the art of temperance, it's a play on words where we're really getting at the same concept, but viewing it as a sort of form of being, a space and a place and a way of being. So I would say, to me, art feels a lot more like a verb, like an action to be done and taken. You see all of the pouring, you see the vibrancy, you see the movement of the animals, you see the faces very focused in their actions, this sort of union, which of course is connected to the Lover's card, as Crowley tells us in the Book of Thoth. So there's a lot going on here, and then we start to see the gold. It's very, I think it's a lot more overtly alchemical in the art card, or in Crowley, or I should say, Lady Frida Harris's artistic rendition of this card. It's a lot more alchemical, at least overtly. So then we get into Temperance in Pamela Coleman Smith's rendition of Key 14, or the Temperance card, which feels to me a lot more like a noun. It feels like a state of being as opposed to an action. Of course, there is some movement going on in this card, but I think the word temperance itself connects and lends itself better to a state of being, something that is attained and arrived at, as opposed to an action that is continuous. And so I think it's wonderful the interplay we can see here, a continuous action and a state and a way of doing, and a destination or a way of being. And I think when we can reconcile the two as really being the same thing, but parts of a whole that make up a more comprehensive image, we start to get at the idea of what the art of temperance is as something that we can take on and adopt for ourselves, something that we can constantly be interacting with and enriching our lives through. For me, I think the idea of the true balance or the harmony that temperance entails or hints at has been a major theme in my life. This is my astrological card. I'm a Sagittarius. And to me, as somebody learning the tarot, especially what I learned with the Rider-Waite-Smith, it always felt like a more watery card. And until I'd read up more and studied more and found out that it was connected to Sagittarius and fire, I always just assumed that it was more of this watery elemental correspondence going on in this card. And I still, to some extent, think that there is an element of the fluidity and intuitive, deeper psyche connected in terms of water. I actually view Sagittarius as more of the watery element of fire, if that makes sense. And I think Crowley agrees. I think he speaks to something similar in the Book of Thoth. I could be wrong, but I believe he speaks to Sagittarius as more of the watery side of fire. And I think that this captures it perfectly. So in this card, we're really looking at transmutation. We're looking at something that feels like a divine balance. So this feels more like an ideal, a figurative, idealistic concept that can then be put into practice, or at least used as a blueprint for, I would say, action and attainment in real life. Of course, that's not something that we can quite literally do. We are not an angel, and we cannot divinely transmute and harmonize various elements in our life, but we can use those examples and really, I think, get at something very similar. So for me, this has become a bit of a journey. I've meditated on these cards in recent days, actually the phrase, the art of temperance, and just repeating that almost like a mantra over and over again, writing down my findings after really getting myself to focus in on that and repeating it to the point where it doesn't even sound coherent and like a phrase. I found myself really just staring at these cards for long spans of time. This isn't something that's necessarily new to my practice. I would say the Temperance and the Art card are cards that I aspire to and find myself feeling very drawn to. Their lessons and their archetypes. And I think that it's something that I require. I think we all require it, that we all need to find that true balance, and that it is part of all of our paths in a unique way. So my true balance and my path towards it and my ideas of it are going to be extremely different from your own. And I think that that's part of the beauty. It kind of is that individuation that we think of in terms of Jung and the idea of development and fulfillment of the self. So recently I'd been meditating on those. I've been trying to, I would say, shift my perspectives or experiment with perspectives on what these cards mean. And I think through, I would say, experimenting with my perceptions and trying to get to the heart of their meaning, I can then hopefully set about, I would say, enacting some of these, or trying to find and fulfill them in through action, the art of temperance. So I kind of allowed myself to think in a little bit, think outside the lines, get a little bit crazy with it. I started to make little drawings of, I would say, the idea of temperance as being something that's always in front of us. It's always in our scope. We are parallel with it. It's something that, for example, I think that there is something to be said for the idea of always being present, of being in the moment, of allowing ourselves to be consumed and wholly within an experience, as opposed to distracting ourselves with, say, devices or music or conversation that is really just trying to get away from being with ourselves. So I think being present as in being with ourselves in any given moment. But then there's the idea of course, the past and the future, which seem outside of the present, or at least different states temporally than the present. And I'm starting to think of things. I think, of course, there's the whole idea that time isn't linear, and that's something that we throw around, some of us more jokingly than others. And I've kind of been toying with that, in that the present is more of, I guess, maybe a parallel, in that the future is really just the present that we are catching up to. And that might sound very obvious, or of course we're catching up to it, we're moving forward in time. But I think the perception of seeing it as something that is already there, it's already created, it's already present, and we're within it, just waiting to arrive at it, is a perception shift that I've found to be really helpful in, I would say, finding balance, performing the art of temperance in any given moment, and allowing myself to feel, I would say, magically, divinely, truly balanced and harmonized in any given moment, whether that be through paying attention and really feeling, I would say, in the process of me making my morning coffee, which you saw in that beginning clip, or taking the time to really feel what it is that I'm doing when I'm watering my plants, when I have a sip of wine and I'm relaxing at night, and how great and how wondrous that first sip is. So I think that the art of temperance is something that is constant. It's not something that you necessarily need to work towards. It's something you just simply need to do through being. So by being me, and really, I would say, paying attention to the art or the way that I am, who I am as a being, and what it means to be me, I then go about doing things that are in alignment with who I am, if that makes any sense. So focus on learning and understanding what it means to be, who I am, what it is to exist in any given moment, what it is to perform and habitate the world that I'm within. And then from that point, the art of doing, or the act of doing through being. So when I'm very much in touch with what it means to be, what it means to be me, who this is, who I am, and that being enough, and then I set about doing, which feels like the cherry on top. I feel like I'm interacting with the art of temperance. I'm finding balance in every given moment and action that I'm performing. So it's kind of wonderful in that everything that I do can feel like a revelation. It can feel like an act of balancing and integrating harmony into my being. That way, what I just spoke of in just being or learning to be, I'm kind of enriching what it means to be through the art of temperance, through the art of being present, through the art of truly feeling and immersing myself in experience, and choosing to view it and shift my perception in a way that allows everything that I do to feel like this balancing, harmonizing act, even the bits that are less glamorous, like, I don't know, being stuck in traffic and seeing it as an opportunity to engage in frustration, and how I can cope with that, what it feels like, how I can integrate it into my experience, and kind of have this well-rounded way of feeling and being. For example, I don't think that we can truly be without the full spectrum of these emotions, feelings, and thoughts. And so it's a nice opportunity for me to then integrate and bring that feeling in, and give it a place within my being, and hopefully to interact with it in a healthy way, and also to feel proud of myself if I'm able to really truly feel it, maybe dismiss it or accept it, and to, I would say, healthily go about overcoming it not in, I would say, the way a means of dominating it, but more so in terms of feeling at peace with it, feeling like I've interacted with it in a way that isn't at a detriment to me. It's not a struggle, it's not a fight, it's really an experience. And so I would say that the art of temperance for me has really been about learning to be, and I would say enriching what it means to be through doing, and to, I would say, find find what it is about each and every experience in any given moment is harmonizing, is contributing to my sense of true balance. And so instead of, I would say, changing my life to fit with this new paradigm or with these new actions, I'm changing my perceptions and thoughts and who I am to better, I would say, experience the things going on around me and the things that I'm doing, so that I do feel more balanced, so that I do become more balanced, so that my ideas of being are enriched, and I, as a person, as a being, as an existence, feel more balanced. And so for me, the art of temperance is an ongoing journey. It's something that, like I spoke about, being parallel and just all of those things actually existing at once, but us kind of just moving along this line, catching up to or returning to certain things. The art of temperance to me really does feel like this grand orchestrated event where I am holding. I don't really know much about orchestrating actually or conducting, but I'm just imagining myself as a conductor and actually choosing to pay attention to my movements and orchestrate and conduct the various elements that come together to create this almost like a symphony. And so that is how I'm choosing to see it. That is what the art of temperance is currently meaning to me. And it's something that I'm excited to continue on with. It's something that I've found to be very helpful in recent days. In just, I hate the word coping because it sounds like it just sounds like getting by, but in, I would say, going about my daily life and trying to find meaning and purpose within it. This has been really helpful, and so I thought I would share it with you all. It's something that's felt rather magical in a way, and so I would be curious to know what the art of temperance might mean to you, or the card itself, the cards themselves, what they mean to you, how you go about interacting with them, or I would say integrating the lessons, the archetypes, and the energies into your life. Maybe these cards don't even really call to you, and the lessons that you feel very called to are different cards in the tarot. And I would be curious to know what those are. Maybe you really feel tied to the death card and the change and transformation there and what it signifies. And I'd be so curious to know why that is, and which card, for example, it is that you feel very drawn to. I would say that this has been, in my entire tarot journey, the one I feel the most called to and connected with, and the one that I feel like I can learn the most from. And so that is why I'm making this video. I hope that although this was a bit of a ramble and I can imagine a bit confusing, I hope it was helpful and inspiring in some way. I would be curious to know what you all thought about my experience in this way. Please like and subscribe if this was something you enjoyed, and I hope you are all well. Until next time, bye.